States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We welcome everybody. Glad to see you this evening. Just a few announcements before we get started. Agendas are available. Hopefully there's still some left in the back of the room if you didn't get one when you came in. The township does video record all of its meetings, and we post those on our website. Written minutes are also available on the website after they're approved by the board. Any individual has the right to record these proceedings, but you must announce your intent to do so at this time.
I have an intent to record.
Okay. And we just need to ask you just to do it in a way that doesn't impact any of the proceedings. You're certainly welcome to do that. Thank you for letting us know. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment. The policy for that is included in your agenda, and we would ask that after you're recognized by the chair, you would step forward to the microphone and give us your name and address before making your comments. With that, we will do self-introductions of the board. Steve Bruce.
Dan Beiser.
Art Rutledge.
Paul Solomon.
Jeff Rowe.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I don't know what happened. You gave motion.
To my left is our township manager, Tom Ziegler, beside him our solicitor, Tim Buck, and beside him our recording secretary, Wendy Brown. What I'd like to propose to the board as we get started is a change in the agenda so we can finish some business left over from the last meeting. I'd like to move forward the vote on the change in the zoning ordinance and handle that first. So I make a motion that we make that change in the agenda.
I'll second that.
A second. Comments? We should vote.
I support that, but how's it going to work as far as any comments or?
Comments would be under the public comment section.
After the vote.
So we're going to make the motion and vote on it.
Correct. I made the motion. We have a second. We changed the order of the
I
agenda.
understand. Thank you.
What? What?
I think that, you know, we didn't finish that business last time. And I think that, you know, that we had a public hearing, so we ought to put this in front of our public comments and then hopefully efficiently move through the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
But you can vote either way. David, vote.
Just to clarify, this is voting to
Change
the agenda,
Right.
moving this up.
Moving
Well,
just to vote on the ordinance change.
Aye.
It's fine.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 5 votes in the affirmative, so we will now move to a vote on the ordinance, so 2019-03. If I could make a couple of just comments, this ordinance was thoroughly reviewed and discussed at the public hearing held in April. Vote on the ordinance was delayed until tonight's meeting to give the board time to review comments and written documents that we received at the public hearing. And we do thank all the members of the community that came out to that hearing and gave us their comments. We also recognize and applaud the work and commitment of the New Life Center for the work that you're doing as well. And just some talking points to start it off and kind of thinking about the public hearing process. After due process, the board received recommendations from its professional staff, which includes the zoning officer, the Township Planning Commission, and the York County Planning Commission to approve the proposed ordinance or zoning change. However, they were recommendations. What counts and what matters is the vote that we will be making shortly here tonight. Members of the board have carefully considered comments that were made at the public hearing, and I think we have thoughtfully and individually reviewed written documents that we were provided to the board. Many of the board members, including myself, have driven through and around the areas that are affected by the proposed rezoning. And to me, it does appear to be largely a rural setting as you drive through that area. Zoning is about land use, just thinking about a couple of comments previously. It is not about water availability, it's It's not about the view that you might have. It's about the use of land. The township does have other ordinances in place that affect water and its availability, so it would come into play if something were done here, as it does now for anybody that builds. And I think when it comes to views, we sometimes forget that our own residents probably had some impact on somebody else's view. I know mine did, and it's a potential big development across the road from me, which I wouldn't like to see, but I have to remember that I impacted somebody else's view 15 years ago when I moved there. I think that while there are up to 5 residents could be allowed in a group home now if it was put in that position, it is kind of, I think, a fact to me at least that a higher number of residents takes on a more institutional look than it does if you're probably dealing with just 8 residents or less. But whatever the results of the voting, there's no reflection on the work that's done by Sun Life. We certainly applaud the work that you do for the community and the sponsors that you have that help you do that. I can kind of read off with some of my concerns and then let the rest of the board weigh in. This is a zoning change that's driven solely, if we're real honest with ourselves, by the potential expansion of the New Life Center to the property. There's no other reason we would be considering a zoning change tonight if it were not for that purpose. It would open up the area to several new uses, some may be more institutional, although you should also be aware that RRR allows greater density in housing and residential use than RR does. And you could actually have more homes in the RRR zone. However, you wouldn't have some of the other uses that are allowed. So there certainly is a rural characteristic to the area there. So it's hard for me to see a real driving reason to make a change at this time. While that property would provide a beautiful and potentially expanded home for the New Life Center, it's just hard to say we should change the established footprint for zoning within the area. So it's kind of to start the conversation. So whoever else would like to weigh in on the board?
I'm not shy about it.
I wouldn't think you
I
would
think
be.
this is a very stable residential community. I think it's very attractive. Most of us, or all of us, have been by it recently to check it out. And this would be an institutional use which doesn't really fit in, particularly since there's no limit on the number of clients that could be housed there other than, I believe it's 2,500 square feet per client. And it could install in more parking, more other kind of commercial aspects to it. So I appreciate the comments we've heard. I appreciate the staff's work, but I'm going to be voting to retain the existing zoning rural residential receiving.
Yeah, I got it.
Sure, absolutely.
Could you repeat what you said, the last part?
He's going to be supporting not changing the zoning.
Okay.
Dave is sometimes my spokesman.
I didn't even see your lips move that time.
He does a very good job, so I don't question him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Paul. Like Art said, the New Life Center is the reason we started looking at rezoning in the first place. However, once we started looking, there were a lot of things that made sense. And a couple of the factors that Art already talked about as well are some of the things that came up in opposition to rezoning didn't have anything to do with zoning. Looking at it from a zoning standpoint, I like the fact of seeing the area is able to be developed as it currently stands. And rezoning it, in some cases, limits what total amount is able to be developed. in the one case, 13 less buildings could potentially go in those areas. And on the other case, 4 more could on the smaller section on the west side of Blind Rock, so to speak. So overall, if it were to be rezoned, there would be less building, less development allowed. And while there are increases in potential uses by the zoning change, almost all of them are based upon special exception, which require additional people looking at it, additional surveys, additional things of that nature, which doesn't necessarily assume that it would be approved, whatever the special exception or use may be. Because of those reasons, I'm planning to support rezoning.
Other comments from the board? No? Okay.
Are you looking for a motion?
This is actually a work session for the board, so we have the public session, so we don't typically entertain comments at this time.
There was a bit of evidence that was not presented last time, and I was wondering if I could present before you do need to vote.
Pardon me a second. That is true. And 30 seconds, and it leaves on your decision. I'd like to have 30 seconds, and that would be it. And this came from Mr. Wright's phone call to me personally 2 weeks ago. And I think it's imperative that you hear it. May I approach the board?
Mr. Rodick isn't here to speak on his own behalf,
If you'll hold on a second, I need to get an opinion from the board as whether to entertain comment.
and you can't take something that someone
If he's
is
hearsay.
hearsay. Yeah.
Agreed, that would be hearsay as far as I'm concerned. And Mr. Roddick isn't here to speak for
And he had an
himself.
opportunity to come.
Exactly, he could have been here last month, he could have been here this
And he did
month.
not tell me not to proceed.
But, that's our attorney. This is not a formal proceeding where hearsay is widespread in this kind of hearing. So is that an impediment to him speaking?
You're asking me for my opinion, I'm going to
Yeah.
share it with you.
Can
The
we,
request for comment at this point is out of order. This is not an open meeting, this is a work session. There is a point at the meeting that's open for public comment, and that point is the public comment section. You've already heard public comment on this in the public meeting for this decision, and that was closed. This is the time for deliberation among the board. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Tim.
we're in order in having a motion and a second and making a decision on these 2 zoning changes?
That is correct.
What I have is not hearsay, it's actual evidence.
I know, but that's not the point of this. Anyway, I'm going to make a motion. I feel very strong about this too, by the way. That we retain the existing zoning. It's consistent with our comprehensive plan. It's in the best interest of the people that live there. And there are other reasons as well. And so I feel very strongly that we retain the existing zoning as rural residential receiving on this site and on the site along 216 west of Glen Rock. I'm suggesting that we rezone that to agriculture, reserve that one farm. Todd, you have given us information on that, so, but I don't want to.
I don't think that we can do that.
Yeah, I'm going to say
at this
that
time.
the ordinance that's before you is to rezone, so I would think that should be, the solicitor can correct me, should be a vote to either approve that
Right.
ordinance or vote against it. But to propose any other type of rezoning, you can't do that under this ordinance, because it'd have to go back through.
That's another issue.
I'll amend my motion so that I suggest, or I make the motion to retain the existing zoning on both tracks.
Do we have a second? I will second, especially for the sake of discussion if there's any more. Any other discussion from the board? We have a motion, we have a second, so we will initiate a vote.
Nay.
I'll agree
We'll read you,
to retain the current
so
zoning.
you're an aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 4 votes to the affirmative, 1 to the negative. That means the existing zoning will be retained, there'll be no change. All right, we'll go to our, again, I thank everybody that did have comments. We did certainly care to consider those. Moving on, the next item of business would be approval of the minutes from our April 3rd meeting.
So moved. I'll second it.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. So, we'll move to approve. Dave?
Aye.
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 5 votes to the
We
affirmative.
have 9 pages of minutes that were well done. Thank you.
Yes.
We left out nothing.
Yes. Wayne, you did a good job. Next item will be approve the treasurer's report. I would note, just before we do that, just for everybody's information, we have an $1,860 expense on Hamilton's overlook inspections, and those fees will be paid, reimbursed by the developer of the property. So, just so we know that's coming back to us.
Did you mention recycling?
You can.
We did, your efforts in recycling do help. The township received $23,462 for recycling grant. Is that correct, Todd, for 2007? They're a year behind.
A couple years behind.
Okay. So everyone's efforts do help.
Yes, I second that. It's certainly a big help to the township these days. Right, that brings us to the, we have to vote on that. We do that, yeah. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve, or did you?
She did, we need a second.
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? We'll vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, the treasurer's report is approved as presented. Brings us to the first opportunity for public comments. Are there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time? Stan, come on up.
Stan Walters, I am the Emergency Management Coordinator for the township, and just want to address the issue of the closing of Shaw and Thompson Road in the township, something you've been discussing for a few months. I am looking at that from the standpoint of emergency use. It's brought to my attention that sometimes that is used as a detour when 851 gets closed down at the rail trail in Railroad Borough. So I didn't know it was going to come up on your agenda tonight or not, but just an item I'm looking at from, as the emergency coordinator for the area. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Stan, if I can add, the owners of this large farm, they can work out something so you would have immediate access to that road if necessary. So it's not necessarily an absolute impediment. It could be, but you can probably work something out. And secondly,
All right, so I'm just paying attention to it, so.
Well, I think that was more for...
you're doing your work, you're doing your job.
I think that was more for if they needed to access the electrical lines or things of that nature. I don't know if they would be able to route traffic through there if it was closed.
And that's the aspect that I'm kind of pondering is in the event of flooding, which does happen,
Sure.
they're able to cone off at that point and detour the traffic without everybody piling up down there, having to do a U-turn and stuff like
I
that.
believe Tony had said that there was an alternate around, because I think the fire company uses that road on occasion as well for different things. Is there a suitable bypass or alternate route?
That's what I'm looking at.
If the road's closed off, there could be a key put in a convenient location where the appropriate groups can get quick access to it.
Well, what about
But not
the
for
10 years where it's in disrepair and...
That would be a problem.
it wouldn't really be maintained as a road anymore, so.
Right.
Anyway, just something to think about.
There's something else to think about too. That's one of our largest and most productive farms. It sits between 3 or 4 boroughs, and the owner's considering putting it in the ag preservation program. So we don't want to lose that opportunity.
Just so you know where we are, it isn't actually on the agenda for tonight, but your comments appreciated, and we'll consider that. Todd is still gathering some significant data. We need to even look at what it costs us to do that.
Oh,
Does it
yeah.
make sense from that standpoint? So we're kind of sitting idle until we get additional information from Todd, and we can sit down and look at that and say, is the benefit to the township, it really makes sense, what is it that we really want to do?
Yeah, so I mean, if I
But that's
come up with something, I think I can put it
Yeah,
together.
if you see anything else, you can just let us know, that'll put into the pile of information that we'll look at.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, you raised a valid point.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to add anything, Tony? You had your hand up, you okay? Okay. Anyone else wishes to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
So originally when we came here, we had asked for advice on how to move forward, and we completely respect the decision that the board has made. I guess we just wanted to know if you have any recommendations on how, instead of rezoning, because that was something that was suggested by you guys, if there was something else that we could do.
Variance.
Whether it's silent appeal, a variance, whatever that looks like.
You always have the right to follow an appeal. I'd like Tim to speak for what they could do.
Any decision is appealable. I'm going to express a personal opinion. It's not even legal likelihood of that being successful, pretty low. I would suggest that your course of action now to achieve what you want on a piece of property is going to lead you to the zoning hearing board
Yes.
for a variance.
Okay,
Right?
With legal representation.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
okay, all right.
If I may, the use that you propose is allowed by special exception
Yes,
on that property, right? It is the, I don't use the word, the number of people that you have in, the number of patients that you put, that would be the variance issue.
yes, okay. All right, thank you, I just want to need clarification.
I'm sorry.
So, but I'm Terry. Yeah, his sister.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, that was my fault. I figured you guys knew me by now.
Argument.
Can I respond first? What's the next one?
Yeah, I just have a follow-up. Rachel Stahl, for the record, Director of Your Life Center for Mothers and Children. So does an appeal have to take place before we hire legal representation and move forward with the variance? Does that process have to be done, or can we, how does that work?
There's a time limit on the appeal period, I believe it's 30 days.
Okay, we're in the
Yeah,
boat.
so.
But I didn't know if it was required in order to continue with legal representation to file for the variance.
Those two actions are independent of each other. You could proceed on both paths at the same time.
Okay,
if you
very
wanted
good.
to do so.
All right,
Thank you.
May I comment? Oh, I come on there.
Oh, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, why don't you, Mr. Rodick is trying to help you, which is very good on his part. Why doesn't he sell the home and give you the return from that sale and let you go into a suitable area and not try to ramrod your way into a stable, very attractive
Why are we
residence?
considered unstable? That's bias.
No, it's not biased at all. This is a conflicting use.
No.
He's speaking of the neighborhood, not of you.
I understand what you're speaking of, but it feels like when you make a statement like that, that is bias and it's prejudice. Because we in our neighborhood, which is 4 minutes from there, are very stable. We have never in 40 years had a police officer on our property.
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest that rather than a back and forth with the correct audience, this is the appropriate time for public comment up here?
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
I'm Stephen Walker. I live at 2860 Seisman Road, Glen Rock. And I have no reason to oscillate except to go straight forward with the truth of a phone call about 2 weeks ago. Mr. Ryder called me personally and apologized for all this, that he didn't want to go through zoning changes, etc. And he said he was going to contact the New Life Girls to see if they could live with 8 people up there. And if not, this helps them too in a way. He said he was willing to build them a new facilities out there. That's all I have to say. That's our testimony of what his phone call was to me. My wife, she's here or not, but she heard the conversation, sir. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
He's wanting to build a new facility where?
He would rebuild their facility out there where they are, make it bigger and better.
Okay.
That's what he said, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, yes, sir.
Eric Schechter, 2969 Sykeston Road. It's kind of late at this point, but I figure since I already spent the money to print the pictures, I want to thank you for rethinking the zoning. But I also like to present this picture for the record of what could happen to our street. Where New Life is currently, and here I'll pass pictures around.
I was there, I think.
Okay.
Thank you, saw you taking pictures.
Our children were scared, actually.
There was nobody out there.
Yes, it was, we got a phone call,
What
that
day?
they were on the property.
What day was that? I'm just not.
Actually, I called Mr. Todd, I didn't know.
Bring back order, we're going to have that conversation. Did you have anything else?
I never, yes. Sykeston Road, before, when I first moved there, was a rural community. There were a few houses scattered around, 4 here, 3 there, and it was just a rural area. With previous zoning changes, it became a neighborhood. I have neighbors that I care about what happens with them, and I hope they care about what happens with me. And quite honestly, I don't want to be seeing a dumpster on my street, or 2 dumpsters on my street, drawing rats, drawing raccoons, drawing whatever else.
In the interest of time.
In the interest of time, I have 5 minutes.
Take a vote, so
Yes, but anyway, thank you. Please keep that picture in the record.
I can move on. Anybody else who wishes to address the board? We do have a 30-minute limit on comments, and we will enforce that tonight, so we can move on. Okay, go ahead.
My name's Ed Kirk. I live in Tessa Lane, and I did speak last time. First of all, the motion here, rezoning, I know it was implemented with the new life, but it's not against the new life. It's really against the commercialization of our neighborhood. And I know that's what as this affects my property, was fighting. I don't want to make this seem like we're just picking on, as you spoke, okay? So first of all, I'd just like to thank the process, the supervisors, for listening to the community. I'm sorry for this process, but I just want to thank for the opportunity as a citizen and a landowner to talk and go through the process and for the time.
Thank you, appreciate that. And again, from the board's view, this is in no way a reflection on anything that you do. We're only looking at the use of land, which is what zoning does. And it's hard to make an argument that we should change the zoning for that whole area, basically, so. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Quickly, I have no problem with the use of all. You do very good work, as I understand it. It's where you're located is the key. And this
I know, but there's been some things that have been stated as facts that are not facts. You can't put a nursing home, even if you rezoned that area, because your statement was that you had no plans of redoing and making them city water, right? You cannot place a commercial-sized building with 50, 60 people on well water.
That's not what we really looked at. We're really looking at is zoning of that whole area. It's not that little piece of property, it's zoning of that whole area.
But I'm saying the building in the future, which is partially the concern. So I guess,
Wasn't something I think concerned board members. So, anybody else who wishes to address the board at this time? All right, thank you all for your comments. We'll move from public hearing as soon as I get my You're right, public comment, I'm sorry. All right, so we're now ready to look at, I guess, just some, we have a revised, Todd, we have a revised, I guess, a correction to zoning of Chestnut Commerce Center. And we'll pause just for 30 seconds here to let people know. All right, we're going to move forward. Next on the agenda is subdivision and land development, and we have, I believe, a lot line correction in Chesapeake Commerce Center.
Yeah, we previously approved this plan. We have Elm Drive, if you recall, the park and ride lot is here. What happened, they discovered that this, when it was subdivided, when they went to, I guess they didn't prepare to sell this property, and in doing so, when they pulled the plans, they discovered that this particular parcel, which was in existence, separate and independent of this larger tract, when the plan was prepared by their engineer, they omitted this lot line, which showed this parcel being part of this larger parcel. So all this plan does is restores the lot line for that particular lot.
C.S. Davidson has reviewed it.
Yes, and your county planning commission has as well. Yeah, this is a little larger. So as you hear, the original plan showed all of this as one parcel, showing this 10 being part of this, and that's not accurate. What existed prior to the subdivision was this was a separate independent parcel. So it's just a matter of correcting a lot line.
I'll make a motion that we approve the correction.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Question?
I almost got a second down,
Oh.
and Jeff is over there already on the ball.
We'll let you vote first then.
I'm going aye.
Aye. All those to the affirmative, that is approved.
And just a reminder, as the meeting adjourns, the plans are over on the table to be signed, please.
Okay. All right, we have, I guess these are three extensions, correct?
Correct.
Previously approved plans.
Correct. E squared, we had approved that for a 6-month extension, which was through today. And I know the owner and representative here, I don't know if you have anything you wish to comment.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
So last time
You can start with your name.
I'm Ed Gold, 7 Mill Chase Court.
Thank you.
Last time I was here, I told you that I was in discussion with a group called New Homes, GHU. Unfortunately, it didn't progress to a conclusion, but I have another builder called Sage Custom Homes, where I have a long working relationship with their, basically their production operator. So we're going to meet again tomorrow, but it looks like I will be able to consummate a transaction with them where they will build their homes on the site. And I've actually asked Todd to help me put together a list of folks that are interested in selling their development rights, because we do need 8 in order to proceed.
Could you please inform people where this development is?
It's off Valley Road,
And how many ultimate lots?
14.
So then,
So
Grand
it's an extension of a community that's in Glen Rock. So we'll just be taking that one road and bringing it to a little further on, but the property is in Shrewsbury.
Okay.
Shrewsbury Township.
We've been working on this since 2006.
Yes, yes. The small crisis in 2008, and the market really didn't come back until about a year or so ago.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Can
And
we,
you feel like you need another 6 months?
I do.
3 months isn't sufficient?
I don't think we'll have a contract. I think we'll be on the borderline of having a contract, and then they've got to get it in the ground, so I really would like to have the 6 months if possible.
Thank you.
for the next two, before we vote on that one, because it might be able to bundle them in solid, what period of time?
For Solomon, both of those, I would just do the standard 3 months because I really expect that'll probably be recorded within the next month.
All right, so then let's have the E-square one first.
Weren't we done with that one, but then there was a mistake or what?
No, there's conditional approval, a couple things had to be done, bonding, and the developer rate transfer deeds and so forth.
So that is not completed yet.
And that's phase
Yeah,
two.
so there's a correction that had to be made to the development rate table.
So I could, we can make one motion, I guess, that encompasses all three, just a motion that we would extend E-square property, that approval by 6 months, and the 2 William J. Solomon properties by 3 months.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments? You vote.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to stay. William J. Solomon is my brother, my younger brother, by the way. And I have no financial interest with anything of his, but I don't want to even create an appearance of a conflict.
Aye.
4 ayes and 1 abstention, so the extensions are approved. That brings us to reports. The manager's report is first, and I'll open up the top if he wants to.
I don't have anything
Want to do anything on that. Does the board have any questions on the manager's report? Okay. Any questions on the engineer's report? Yeah, we'll give the solicitor an opportunity, if nothing writing, if there anything he wishes to.
Please be seen and not heard.
If I can, make a comment under the engineering.
Absolutely.
Gemmell Road at Deer Creek is now open.
Good.
That is between Cooper and Deer Creek Road. If you recall, we have the Iron Bridge on Gemmell, which is between Cooper and Stewartstown Road. That should be open early next week. So those 2 bridges down in that area next week should all be open in all those roads.
So besides Line Road,
We have White Oak.
is still closed.
Correct. We have some other ones that need repairs,
But they're open.
They're open.
Right, they're open. But we're working through the closures,
Yes.
at least.
So I have questions on the reclaimed farm site being used as a area for material to be stored as part of the exit 4.
Correct. That's
Do
my
they have a-
understanding, yes, and it's been through your county conservation
So
district.
they have a plan when they're done to restore the area.
Instructions on where to plan, yes.
Any other questions on that report? Maintenance report. All right, zoning codes enforcement report.
Anything there that we should be particularly interested in on the code enforcement report? We don't want to miss that.
Nothing in particular.
The only thing I would add is that on, I'm not sure, let's see, it's first, second page about, it's the item on Southern Auto Tech, but it's missing a dollar figure for the
Yes, that
final
was
cost.
That was a $500 fine. Plus
This 500,
Right.
we're hoping for 1,000.
Yes.
That was the
Judge
judge.
issued it at 500.
Well, it was the Easter season, maybe that was why.
What's going on with the property for the lady who's in North Carolina? Has that been sold to someone else, or is she still owning that property?
No, and I don't know if we'll recover that. It's for a return check. The account was closed, and with it being an out-of-state resident now. What it was is they came in and paid with check for their yearly transfer, for their septic inspection and their pumping. They had all that done, went to settlement, and by the time we got the check to the bank, the account was closed. And she had moved to North Carolina. We tracked down an address and sent numerous letters.
They haven't been excited to pay them.
No.
How long of a period are we talking about? From the time we received it to the time we went to the bank?
We do at least, depending on the amount that we have, we at least do a minimum once a week, typically twice a week we do deposits. So, it was more than 2-3 days.
is it possible the account was closed before the check was written?
It is very possible. They don't give us the date that it was closed, so I don't know that.
Interesting. We have the subdivision land development planning commission report. Zoning hearing board, any questions? Bring us to an opportunity for supervisor comments. If I could lead, I attended 2 days of the annual PSAT conference in Hershey. PSAT being the Pennsylvania State Association for Township Supervisors. I guess there are around 4,000 people in attendance. Todd attended also for 2 days. Ann was there for a day, and Paul was there for a day as basically a presenter. But all combined, we attended 13 different workshops, all of which were on topics that were and should be of interest to the township, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some of that information back to the township as we move forward. And comments from others.
I'd like to say one thing quickly. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Our township is one of the, according to the County Planning Commission, is one of the better planned and maintained townships. 80% of our township is under a very strict agricultural zone, which is outside of the growth boundary, which is very tight to exit 4 and development. And some people are of the mistaken opinion that once we develop within the growth area as designated by a formal line, then we're going to open up the agriculture area. That is not the intention. And anybody that disagrees and does it oppositely is going to burn in hell for an eternity. I don't know what else to say, but
Let's just tell what you think, Paul.
I can be spiritual. Anyway, there's 35 townships in York County, and most of them are obliterated by development, wall-to-wall housing, and we don't want that to happen here. Our quality of life and just maintain our agricultural zone is really critical, so stay on guard.
Any other comments from the group here? I will move to.
I had a question.
Please.
The area just south of Southern Auto Tech, what's happening on either side of the road there? There's some dirt being moved, looks like it's to do with a stream of some kind.
I knew there were some, right along the road shoulder, going southbound on the right, there was trees, scrub trees and so forth that were removed, that's all I'm aware of.
All right, it looked like dirt was being moved, and it was on both sides of the road.
Where is this?
Just south of Southern Auto Tech on.
Yeah. That's
Is it
George,
right before you get to the pond?
Yeah, right just.
They've been in there for a while.
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Phillips. On the other side of the road,
We haven't seen anything about it though.
No, we have not.
I called the conservation district. On the other side of the road, he put a trench down through a wetland, and they got a complaint from somebody else prior to my calling them.
Okay.
And they are concerned about that.
So that's parallel to the road when you put that trench in, right?
I'm not sure if that's what I'm seeing or not, but I'd like to get some clarification on what that is.
It's hard to figure out because you just moved earth, not in any significance. I mean, it's not a lot of material, but you can't tell what he's trying to do.
Well, I know there was a lot of trees removed, and I do know that this spring, when we had a lot of,
Make your way out.
or last fall, when there was a lot of water, the water tables were high, and everybody was getting water in the basin and so forth. I know PennDOT actually came down and pushed some ground off of there as well to try to get the water off the trail.
Okay.
So, and I think I believe it's to correct that water problem that lays on the trail.
I go through there 10 times a day.
Sure.
And
I guess you gotta tell me your name. Just
Bill Robinson. PennDOT was there first. PennDOT actually put a couple of stone swales in up at the upper end of the property, did some clearing along the road. So they were the first person to do anything. George did open up a swale down there. I did see the Conservation District go down and do an inspection on what would be the west side of the road. On the east side of the road, he had runoff issues going on there that were draining down, and the dirt that was getting generated from Market Square was available, so he pulled the topsoil back put the dirt in, raised the grade so it was higher than the road, then he's putting the topsoil back. I know that one because I was after the dirt too, and that guy George got the dirt, and I didn't get the dirt, so that's why I know exactly what happened. So it's just a
You
matter
got
of-
all the dirt on the dirt.
So I know what happened there. So the one side, on the east side, it definitely was a runoff problem. By what he did, he corrected that so the water's not running off the road and washing out the field. PennDOT put the stuff up right up by Southern Automotive, and George did open up the little swale there, and I did see Conservation District out there. I'm sure they're following up on it. So,
I must say one thing, Bill. Oh, wait, I don't have to say it again. Dirt is something you sweep out of your home. Soil is a natural resource which we treasure. We must distinguish between the two.
okay, he brought in subsoil and underneath the topsoil.
I like that.
You have to go to our next one, because I saw that too, when I worked out.
And this is not really anything to do with soil or dirt or anything like that, but we've been seeing the cherry pickers at Walmart for like the last 2 or 3 months too. And I don't understand what they're doing there either. They're just...
No, I talked to Todd about that, because I see him every day.
Okay.
It's usually...
Yeah, you probably look out your window and see it.
It's usually about 8
Yeah.
that are sitting
Yeah,
there.
and some of them have some of the chippers, I guess,
Right,
attached to the bags too, but I have no idea.
I mean, I can't
It's
imagine
there, I believe they're doing work for Med Ed.
It seems like there's enough trees in this area.
Because I did see a notice from Med Ed that in this general area, they're working on about 3,100 miles of power lines.
Okay.
So-
What was that, Johnny?
It's a staging area. It's exactly what he said. It's a staging area for them to go out and do contracted work.
These people don't know that contract is worth it.
There's a lot going on.
As long as you don't mess up Mount Airy Road and all that money we spent on
That's a
it.
good point. It is still under warranty though.
Part of it is for a couple
Yeah,
of months.
bottom half.
Okay. All right, I'm all out of comments.
Anybody else jump in?
What was that day?
I said I was all out of comments.
You don't?
Yes.
Not make you happy, yes.
All right, we'll move on to old business. And Todd, may want to say a few words on the maintenance.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a few months, about having an assessment done of our maintenance facility, which was constructed, I believe, in 1976. It's a steel frame, metal sided building. The roof's starting to get bad, some of the heating units are getting bad, and so forth. If you recall, we talked about hiring a firm to do an assessment of the building, to take a look at it in its current state, and to put together a cost estimate to bring it up to code and to make the necessary repairs and so forth. The second estimate that they would come back is to do the same thing as they would with one, with adding a 20-foot addition on the front. And then the third estimate they would come back with is to build a new building to replace that one.
Okay.
We
Am I
have,
seeing it right, the one wanted 55,000?
yeah, I was going to say, we have 3 proposals, one from Core Design Group at 55,000. I have no idea.
I feel like they didn't want to do the job.
Yeah, I don't know. CS Davidson, who is our current engineering firm, at $8,600. And then Murphy and Dittenhafer Architects at $7,850.
We have a winner.
Yeah, and I would recommend Murphy and Dittenhafer. I have total confidence in our township engineer, but Murphy and Dittenhafer, that's their focus is architectural work, where Davidson's are civil engineers. They do a little bit of everything. They do some of that in-house, but they also subcontract.
Davidson would have to team by their proposal with an architect and a mechanical engineering.
Correct.
Probably counts for the
Where
extra.
Murphy is, and have it all in the house, so that's.
I would make a motion that we go ahead and accept the estimate. Is that the right?
Yeah, the proposal.
The proposed estimate by Murphy Dittenhafer Architects?
That's a low bid.
It is.
Yes, correct.
It is, yes.
I'll second that motion.
This was something we already budgeted for, Todd.
Yes.
How much do we budget?
I thought it was 8,500, but I'd have to double check.
It is. We came in
I'll
under.
double check.
So how's the project coming on the same site where they're going to put in the stormwater management impoundment?
I know Mike's been working with, help me with the name of they bought Superior Nurseries. Lee Irwin.
Yeah.
They were looking to do some of that work in conjunction with us in exchange for the soil. And
we'll give them dirt.
So, but I mean, we really want to get it done this year, but the August 31st floods that, wiped out bridges and whatever, while we're contracting some of that, we're doing some of that work ourselves, so it kind of put us behind the eight ball.
This is designed to catch water coming off of primarily Interstate 83, the outfalls right into our property and flows all the way down, even in the Amish market area.
But I think we'd all agree that the priority was to try to get our bridges and all that kind of shit.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote? Any comments? Dave?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 5 votes to the affirmative. We've approved that agreement contract with Murphy and Diffenhofer. I think you just want to give us a couple updates.
Yeah, the only thing regarding Line Road, Art reported last month that we had a couple meetings with them on site. We hadn't heard anything. Our understanding is that the determination has been made for the full bank width of the stream, so that's allowing North Hopewell Township engineer to go back and do some calculations on a couple different options, whether it's a GRS bridge, a full four-sided box culvert, or a three-sided box culvert. So we're waiting to hear back from them. I'm hoping next month we get some numbers back. And of course, we're working with your county conservation district to try to get some grant money, upwards of about $100,000 we think we can get toward replacing that culvert on Line Road, and that would be through the low volume grant program, low volume road grant program.
And that would be a grant this year or 2009 to next year?
My understanding, when we were out in the field, it sounded like it could probably be available this year. I'm just not sure if the North Hopewell is ready this year. So but I think a lot of it's going to depend. We need to wait to see what those budgets are for the 3 different options, and then hopefully we can mutually agree upon which of those options we go with. They are aware that, because we've had this conversation, if you recall, a year and a half ago, that Shrewsbury Township's first choice is to go for the full 4-sided box culvert, and that the GRS bridge would be our last choice.
That was the one that...
That's with the stack block and wood deck.
Yeah.
And we have determined that of the 2 crossings, one of those we would be able to jointly basically fix in-house.
Yeah, we can fix the what I'll call the south crossing closest to Short Road. We can bring that back up to meet minimum standards. At some point in time, that will need to be replaced, but we can emphasize our energy and dollars on the north one, which is totally, as you know, totally, the road and bridge is gone. The north one, the pipe's still in place, that hasn't moved. There's basically a base over top of that, so we can restore that and bring that back up and get that back open.
The intent would be to do both at the same time, because destroying one doesn't buy anything without getting the second one. So a little bit of an update for you.
I have a question, if I may approach the board.
Sure, come on.
Chad Myers, 11820 Line Road. I just want to know how the determination was made. Maybe this question is more directed at Todd, but how the determination was made that North Hopewell Township would be responsible and take the lead on the engineering of this bridge instead of Shrewsbury Township, or jointly between the two.
That is a good question, and I don't know that I have a clear answer. Do you recall Shrewsbury Township had taken the lead? We actually had secured an emergency permit that allowed us to go in to make repairs temporarily and allowed us up to a year to make permanent repairs. We were contacted by North Hopewell Township, who informed us that they independently, unbeknownst to us, had reached out to DEP, and this particular person that their engineer spoke to supposedly said that what we proposed wasn't adequate, wouldn't work and so forth, and they were going to apply for an emergency permit. In the meantime, when they were in the process of making an application, which I understand from DEP, they never made a formal application, our emergency permit expired, and they do not renew emergency permits. So.
And I think that kind of highlights my concern a little bit, because North Hopewell Township seems to have a tendency and history to drag its feet. So I don't see this we're not making any progress. And I think that it goes back to North Hopewell Township and then them having the lead.
The reason I think that they probably tried to jump in the lead and they requested that is because they believe their engineer has a close relationship with the gentleman that's representing, what's the group?
York County Conservation
Right,
District.
and that they, right or wrong, may feel they're in a better position to make sure a grant is obtained. Is that kind of fair? That's
fair.
That's my analysis. I don't disagree that they might move slower than we would certainly like to see. I know Todd tries to keep their feet to the fire. There are a lot of emails, a lot of things that go back and forth to try to push it. But yeah, we're trying to work through it because we've both got to eventually agree on what happens.
I understand that.
We're really sticking.
I do understand that.
Right.
I just, as I stated, I just have my concerns about the engineering responsibility falling to North Hopewell Township.
Are we able to put into a deadline on when things need to get accomplished? I mean, we're working together, but at the same time, if they're not working with us, it's really difficult to do anything.
It is. I mean, I think we could certainly send a letter and express our concern. I don't think we can necessarily mandate a deadline because we share the bridge, so we have to work together to make this happen.
Have you met with them at all? And
Have I personally?
again, you can start.
With North Hopewell Township? No, sir.
You had correspondence as late as today with them. Or
Yesterday.
yesterday. Yes, late as yesterday.
Yeah, I was told that we should know something after their meeting, which I believe is next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, that's right. All right, thank you.
Did they say anything at their meetings, or you haven't?
I have not attended them.
We could,
I've been down on these meetings to get the updates.
we could meet at the line for old fashioned donuts. No, I'm not making light of that. I know it's a serious consideration, and we are trying to move along and trying not to create a relationship that makes it go out even longer, if that makes sense to you.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, because we actually, myself, Art, and our maintenance foreman, Mike McLean, we've actually met with the full board on 3 different occasions. So it wasn't just like there was one representative from their board of supervisors.
Yes, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. My concern is not with the board itself, it's who's handling the engineers and how we got to there.
We understand.
Yeah,
how it's been
it's an
moved.
inconvenience to you, and it's understandable that you want to see this get done.
Sure. We share your
So-
frustration.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
like I said, we've had 3 meetings with their board, so we're not sitting back.
No, I appreciate it. It's not the concern with, my concern's not with the board, my concern's with their engineering staff.
That's probably valid.
Thank you.
Public meeting, that's all I'll say.
Can I approach you with regard to Warren Road?
Sure.
Hi, my name's Terry Hallway. I live on Warren Road as well, or for my mother-in-law. And I'm here because is there like a timeline that can be set up with North Hopewell to see, at least if they're hitting the timeline and you guys could agree to something like that? Or the issue is number one, my mother-in-law, she lives right there on Line Road, and the garbage truck will come around, and there's like a little bend that comes, but then it backs out because it can't go up Short Road, across the bridge. So it sounds to me like that's kind of a safety hazard for anybody coming down Line Road. I'm talking about on Hayne and Line.
We can, and that's our goal, but the problem is, before we can actually set some timelines, we need to, both municipalities have to mutually agree upon what type of bridge we're going to put in, which is our understanding. We're waiting on those cost estimates so we can make that decision. And then, once we know what type of bridge we're going to put in, then I think we can start to establish timelines.
So what are you looking at? I mean, are you looking at a temporary bridge, at least on the first?
Well, it
No
would be,
temporary?
that's the pipe that's there now, is in place,
Yeah,
just most of
yeah.
the road is gone.
Yeah.
That pipe would stay, so we just have to rebuild the base and lay new asphalt on that section.
That would be done mutually by the two towns.
We share that one as
Okay.
well.
So we don't need contractors and a lot of engineering involved to do that. But that one now doesn't do us any good until we have a solution for them.
As you may, I don't know if you're aware, but actually the two bridges that are washed out, Shrewsbury Township, the section of road that Shrewsbury Township owns is responsible for is just that short section between the two pipes. Everything else is marked out well. Clear up to Hayne and out to the other end.
Okay, thank you.
And we're talking about two different types of bridges, so it's not like an equal swap. Tim was asking before the meeting about, could we do one and they do one and kind of go. It's not a
No,
similar
there's going to
kind
be
of
significant
structure.
cost difference between the two.
And just doing one doesn't accomplish anything, because you need both.
Take the path through, correct.
I mean, the second one, even the best estimates is $250,000 or more probably. So it's, yeah, that's not an insignificant undertaking. I think
Send them a letter, at least.
Todd's actually sent them several in the last couple of weeks.
Why don't I'll follow up with after their meeting Tuesday night, and I'll email the board and let you know where they stand with, the type of bridge and cost estimates and so forth.
Thank you, John. All right.
All right, we have an update on subdivision land development ordinance amendments.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, just an FYI, that staff will be reviewing that on next month. So we will be looking at a July 10th adoption date, and that's for amendments to the subdivision land development ordinance. And if you recall, just an FYI, mark your calendars, we did schedule the July meeting to the second Wednesday of July because of the July 4th holiday.
And these are housekeeping amendments. They're
Correct.
They're not going to turn everything on its head.
He's just afraid we're going to sneak one in there.
You can never let your guard down.
That's all I have on that item.
Okay. Is there any new business not on the agenda? All right, we
Pretty
have,
light week,
yeah.
month, excuse me.
Yeah, some correspondence in front of you, a couple of invitations, one of which is already gone on the tax bureau. And Ann has attended that previously, and her recommendation was I probably wouldn't want to take the time to do that. I guess we had the same question on the SPCA report. They say they got one of something. So either our money is poorly spent and they don't need it, or this report isn't accurate.
No, I will follow up with an email with the new director. They have a new director, so I don't know if there's...
We had this on a report,
For the fourth quarter.
one other report, so it seems like if it's computer generated, there's something going on in their computer. Any questions on any of the correspondence? If there's anyone left that hasn't talked, we do have an opportunity for closing public comment at the present time.
Stan's already talked. He's
Come on,
going
go
in.
ahead and say. All right.
I have something else, I'm Stan Walters, Emergency Management Coordinator. A number of people have brought up things that deal with the recovery from last August. And I spent last Saturday morning out with a reconnaissance team from Team Rubicon. And I may have mentioned Team Rubicon in the past. They are a volunteer group made up of veterans. They have a special skill set. They're a nationwide nonprofit organization that they help in the aftermath of tornadoes and flooding. We were hoping that they would come to York County. They finally have. And they have agreed to help us with the debris ball on the Clearview Road property. So we're actually going to have a couple of nonprofit groups that are teaming up to help clear. That's the location where the sheds wash down at 2504 Clearview Road. So I just wanted to pass that on. Now, we don't have a date set. Their priorities are going to be set by York County EMA, and over in Chancellor Township, Otter Creek area is a higher priority. But looking at that site, they're going to utilize what they call a Sawyer team, saws, chainsaws, and reciprocal saws. And the faith-based groups will provide manpower. They're going to cut the thing up, and the homeowner is going to get a dumpster for all the debris to go in. So that'll happen May, June timeframe.
So the owner is involved in
Yes.
helping some of that out too, even though it's washed off his
Yes.
or their property.
Yeah, so it's actually washed into a property. We're not really sure who owns it, so.
Right.
So
What are you doing personally and officially to solve the problem of stormwater erosion?
What am I doing?
Yeah. I know you respond to the issue when it occurred, but it rears its ugly head. But in the meantime, you should be pacing the floor, trying to come up with a solution to the problem.
Well, so
When he gets like this.
I am also part of a group that is working not just here in South Central EMA territory, but countywide. And I'm involved in meetings probably several times a month. The only solution we really have in EMA, when you have areas that are repeatedly flooding, is a buyout. In other words, that property, if you have, for example, Frysville Road over in Hellenborough is a property that somehow they allowed building to happen there, houses, and they've been repeatedly flooded. So this time around, they're going to, the municipality has submitted an application to PEMA, and they're going to try to get some mitigation money required. It's 75% from the state, 25% municipal match. So it's not 100% funded by the state, but that's what they're going to do. And the people get fair market value pre-flood. So you don't pay them like it's worth peanuts now because it floods. They get the value of that property before it flooded. That puts money in their pocket so that they can move on, go somewhere else. And that's the only solution when you don't want people building there. But there is in our county one really hardship case right now. The gentleman did not get any kind of payout from his insurance company. They turned down his attempt to get payment. His house was swept away, and the rest of the land, the lot that he owns, isn't really developable. It's a wooded lot. It's like 9 acres, but it's a greater than a 25% grade. So it's hard to find a place to put sewer and water there. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but yeah, it can be very difficult to try to have a way out of the loop.
We require a 100-foot stream buffer, minimum stream buffer, for new development. And that's the easy way to go. I mean, rather than react afterwards. But we learn the hard way, don't we?
Keep people away from streams.
Yeah. And make them plant trees.
Get to high ground.
So is there any state grant money available for that?
Well, what we're working on is a way for that municipality to figure out how he would like to build on the land that he owns, because he's still paying the mortgage for a house that's washed away. It's down the creek, literally. So the insurance company wouldn't pay it. When he moved in, he wanted to buy flood insurance. They said, well, you're not in the flood zone or whatever. Even though he was next to the creek, he wasn't in the space.
They refused to sell him
He
insurance.
wasn't in the space that required it, so they said, don't get it, so he didn't. So the system kind of failed in that case. Unfortunately, that's not in our area, but it can happen. He's in Chancellor.
People have to accept the ownership of stormwater. When water falls out of the sky, whether it's water comes down, snow, whatever, falls on your land, you own it. If you irresponsibly let it escape from your land and cause downstream flooding, then you should be surcharged accordingly. Work on that, will you?
I know where you're going with this, Paul.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll my favor, man.
Get back to us on it, will you?
Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board before we? Everybody's had their say. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. We're adjourned. Thank you.